thunder shattered the quiet, just as Lena Moreau gripped the steering wheel tighter, rain battering the windshield until the world dissolved into streaks of light. She had lost her wallet 2 nights ago. At least that's what she told herself. But now the charges blinking on her phone came from another city. Same card, same name, different place. Her breath fogged the glass as she scrolled through the list, fingers trembling harder with each new line. Outside, headlights cut through the storm, fleeting ghosts on wet pavement. Lightning flared, reflecting her own eyes in the mirror. Except the reflection didn't move quite right. The air inside the car thickened, metallic with fear. "Who's doing this?" she whispered. The silence that followed felt like an answer. Would you forgive someone if the truth was worse than the lie? By dawn, the storm had emptied, leaving the air thick and metallic. Lena moved through her small apartment barefoot, every creak of the wood sounding too loud. Her wallet rested on the counter, dry, its contents untouched. Yet her phone continued to buzz with charges from cities she hadn't seen. She called her bank. The automated voice greeted her politely, but recited the wrong digits of her account. A cold dread settled beneath her ribs. Maybe the theft wasn't about money. Maybe someone wanted her life itself. She turned toward the hallway mirror, heart racing, whispering, "Who's pretending to be me?" In the next room, a phone rang, and hers lay silent in her hand. When she called the police, the officer's voice crackled through static. "Flat, routine. Fraud happens all the time," he muttered. "But they're using my voice," Lena said, her throat tightening. "They called pretending to be me." The typing stopped. Silence lingered. Then a low chuckle crawled through the receiver. "You sound like her," he whispered, before the line clicked dead. The words echoed through the apartment. She stared at the blank TV screen, her reflection faintly flickering. It blinked. Once. And not in sync with her. That evening, Clara arrived unannounced, raindrops still clinging to her jacket. "You look awful," she said softly, setting down takeout. "Someone's using my name, my cards, my voice," Lena whispered. Clara shook her head. "You need sleep. Maybe you did it without remembering." Before Lena could answer, Clara's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and her color drained. A new text read, "I'm fine. Don't worry." The sender's name glowed. Bright. Lena Moreau. Sleep never came. The city murmured beyond the window, a restless hum. At 12:03 a.m., the door handle turned, slow, deliberate. Lena froze. The movement stopped, replaced by silence, thick enough to hear her heartbeat. Then a folded note slid under the door. She crawled forward, hands trembling, phone light quivering across the paper. The words were written in her own handwriting. "Stop reporting yourself." Her phone vibrated once more. This time the message came from a contact, labeled with her name. Morning light slanted across the kitchen tiles as Lena poured coffee into a chipped mug, the steam rising like smoke from a battlefield. Her phone buzzed again. Another charge, another city. The numbers didn't scare her anymore. It was the timestamps that did. They matched her every movement, minute by minute. When she walked to the window, a gust of wind rattled the glass, and across the street she saw someone standing in the shadow of a bus stop. Same posture, same hair, same coat. Her own coat. Her throat closed. The figure didn't move, just stared back through the rain-streaked glass. She whispered, "What are you?" But the words caught halfway out. The coffee cooled, untouched, as her reflection flickered like static. Lena couldn't take it anymore. She drove 2 hours to Hollow Creek, the town from the transactions, every mile stretching taut with dread. The highway was nearly empty, except for a black sedan that lingered in her mirror far too long. By the time she reached the town limits, the air had changed, still, dense, as though it were holding its breath. She parked near a small motel and stepped out into silence thick enough to feel. The sign above her flickered twice before dying completely. The phone in her hand glowed with one last charge. Room 7. She looked up. Room 7's curtain moved. Inside room 7, the air smelled faintly of bleach and something older. Dust, maybe. Or fear. The bed was neatly made, untouched. A phone charger lay on the nightstand, plugged in. When she turned toward the mirror above the dresser, her heart stopped. Her own wallet lay there. Not the one from home. This one looked new, dry, polished. Inside were her cards, her ID, her photo. Only the face in the photo wasn't quite hers. The jawline sharper, eyes colder, smile thinner. Her pulse roared in her ears as she whispered, "You're not me." But the mirror smiled back first. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a video call from Clara. Lena answered with shaking hands. Her sister's face appeared on screen, calm but distant. "Lena," Clara said softly, "why did you come back here?" The background behind Clara was wrong. It wasn't her apartment. It was the motel room Lena stood in. The same flickering lamp. "Clara," she whispered, "where are you?" But Clara just smiled faintly. "I told you to stop reporting yourself." The screen went black. The walls seemed to hum as the wind outside grew louder. Lena stumbled backward, knocking over the lamp, its bulb flickering before dying. In the darkness, she felt her phone vibrate one last time. A message appeared, no number, just text. "You're late." She looked at the mirror. The reflection was gone. Slowly, she turned, heart pounding, and saw a shape standing in the doorway. Familiar outline, familiar curls, familiar eyes. Hers. It smiled once, gently, and in her own voice it whispered, "Welcome home." The air in room 7 was heavy, like something alive was breathing with her. Lena pressed her back against the wall, watching the second version of herself move closer. Its smile never faltered. "You don't belong here," the other whispered, voice smooth, quiet, terrifyingly familiar. Lena's pulse thundered in her ears. "You're not real," she said. But the echo that followed sounded like two voices, perfectly synchronized. The other Lena tilted her head. "You called the police," she said softly. "You reported yourself." Then, without blinking, she asked, "Why did you think you could have 2 lives?" Lena's breath broke as she realized the truth wasn't about theft. It was about replacement. Lena fled into the rain, barefoot, the motel door swinging open behind her. The night seemed endless, roads slick with reflections of sodium lamps. She ran until her lungs burned, stopping only when she reached the edge of town. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She hesitated, then pulled it out. A photo message awaited her. A picture of her apartment, lights on, window open. Someone was home. The message was signed with her name. Her knees nearly buckled as she realized she had never left that apartment. Maybe she was the one who didn't belong in this body at all. When Lena reached her apartment, dawn was breaking. The air inside was colder than outside, every shadow sharp and wrong. The wallet lay on the table, perfectly dry again. Her photo looked exactly as it should, except the reflection in the laminate surface blinked when she didn't. Slowly, she looked up. Standing behind her in the mirror's edge was Clara, smiling faint. "You made it back," Clara said. Lena turned. "How did you—" Clara's expression didn't change. "I've been here the whole time." Her tone was off, flat. Then she added, "We all have." Lena took a step back. "Clara," she whispered, "what are you saying?" Her sister's eyes flickered with something hollow. "You reported me once, remember?" she said softly. "You said I stole your life. You just don't remember how it ended." The words struck like ice. Lena shook her head, heart stuttering. "That's not true." But the apartment began to hum. The lights dimming, reflections shifting in every surface. Clara's voice dropped to a whisper. We can't both exist, Lena. She took a step forward, smiling as the glass of the mirror rippled like water. The reflection in the mirror began to move independently. Lena's double smiled, raising its hand as if waving goodbye. Clara's face softened. "You will forget this part," she whispered. "You always do." The air filled with static, light shattering into white noise. Lena stumbled forward, pressing her hand to the glass. Her palm met warmth on the other side. Then everything went black. When she opened her eyes, she was sitting on her couch, sunlight spilling across the floor. Her phone buzzed beside her. The bank notification read, "Welcome to your new account, Clara Moreau." The world felt different when Lena woke. The clock read 6:14 a.m., yet the sunlight outside didn't look real. Too still, too golden. Her coffee machine was running, but she didn't remember turning it on. The air smelled faintly of bleach and rain, a scent that belonged to the motel, not her home. Her phone lay beside her, screen black, except for the faint reflection of her face. She reached for it, and it lit up instantly. The lock screen showed a photo of her and Clara, smiling. Except this time, Clara's arm wasn't around her. It was around the other Lena. The one from the mirror. Lena called Clara's number, voice trembling. The call connected instantly, too instantly. No ringtone, no delay. "Clara?" she said. A quiet exhale answered her. "You shouldn't have come back." Clara's voice murmured, "You're supposed to stay where you belong." Lena swallowed hard. "What do you mean?" But the voice on the other end wasn't her sister anymore. It was her own. "Stop pretending you're me." The call ended with a sharp click. Her reflection in the phone glass blinked independently, lips curving into a slow smile. She drove to Clara's apartment, streets empty and sky heavy with an unbroken gray. The door was unlocked. Inside, the air felt stale, untouched for weeks. A cup of tea sat cold on the counter, mold beginning to bloom at the surface. On the wall above the couch hung a family photo. Lena and Clara as children, but someone had scratched out Lena's face. Her breath caught when she noticed her wallet on the table. Not the one she'd taken home. The original. Beneath it, written in smeared ink, were the words, "Check the mirror before you sleep." Night fell again before Lena realized how much time had passed. The apartment lights flickered, and her reflection in the window stayed solid even when she moved away. She turned on every light in the place, heart pounding. "I'm not you," she whispered to her reflection. But the other version's mouth moved first this time. "You were never supposed to wake up." Her phone lit up on the table with a new message. No number. Just one word. Switch. The reflection smiled wider. The room went dark. When she opened her eyes again, the world was inverted. The apartment was the same, yet not. The walls too bright. Her voice echoing wrong. In the mirror across the room, she saw herself asleep on the couch, breathing softly. Panic surged through her chest. She pressed her hands against the glass, but it was solid, cold. "Clara!" she screamed. Footsteps echoed from the hallway. The door opened and Clara stepped in, calm, serene, looking directly at the reflection. "It's done," Clara said softly. "You're home now." She reached out toward the sleeping Lena on the other side. Lena woke to silence that didn't belong to any morning. The air was sterile, soundless, too perfect. Her phone rested on the table, but when she touched it, the screen only reflected her face. No icons, no time. She stood, her body feeling heavier, slower, as if gravity had changed. Every mirror in the apartment showed her in slightly different positions. One smiling, one turning away, one crying. "Clara!" she called out. From the kitchen came a reply, but it wasn't her sister's voice. It was hers. "You're in the wrong reflection." The sound of footsteps echoed softly as Clara appeared in the doorway. She was calm, eyes distant, hands clasped before her. "Do you remember the night you vanished?" she asked. Lena shook her head. "You filed a report," Clara said. "You said your reflection wouldn't stop moving." A tear slid down Lena's cheek. "Please help me." Clara's gaze softened. "I already did. I brought you back." Her tone shifted slightly. "But you came wrong this time." Lena's stomach nodded. "What do you mean wrong?" Clara didn't answer. Her reflection in the mirror smiled instead. Lena's breathing quickened as she backed away. The reflections began to move on their own, each turning its head toward her, one after another, like a delayed echo. "This isn't real," she whispered. But the floor felt solid beneath her, the air cold against her skin. The apartment lights flickered once, and the walls seemed to stretch wider, as though the mirrors were pulling them apart. Clara stepped closer, her voice echoing strangely. "You can't exist without a reflection, Lena. Your borrowed light." The mirrors shivered, and the sound of static filled the room. The power snapped off, plunging everything into darkness. Lena could only hear her own breath, and another, slower one behind it. A faint blue glow leaked from the mirror across the room. She approached it cautiously, every step creaking through the silence. Inside the reflection, the other Lena was waiting, calm and steady, hand pressed to the glass. "You don't have to fight anymore," it whispered. "You were never supposed to be on this side." Lena's throat tightened. "Then where do I belong?" The reflection smiled softly. "You already know." The mirror rippled like liquid as Lena touched it. Her fingers sank in slightly, and warmth spread up her arm. Clara watched silently, a tear tracing down her cheek. "Go," she whispered. "It's the only way you'll stop splitting." Lena took one last breath and stepped forward. The surface folded around her, swallowing her reflection and the sound of her heartbeat. When the light returned, Clara was alone. On the floor lay the wallet, the phone, and a note written in Lena's handwriting. "If I'm not me, who was I before you found me?" Clara sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at the mirror propped against the wall. It was quiet now. The surface had stopped rippling, just glass again. Morning sunlight filtered through thin curtains, catching dust motes that floated like ghosts. Her sister's phone rested beside the mirror, screen dark but warm to the touch. Clara hesitated, then reached out and pressed her fingers to it. The phone unlocked immediately. A photo filled the screen, Lena standing behind her, smiling faintly. Her heart lurched. She turned around, but no one was there. The phone buzzed once. A new message appeared. "I'm still here." Clara froze, her reflection in the mirror shifting ever so slightly, the angle not quite matching her movement. "Lena," she whispered. "Oh." The reflection smiled, but her own face didn't. A thin crack appeared at the top of the mirror, spreading slowly like a web. The message blinked again, repeating itself over and over. "I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still here." The words pulsed in rhythm with Clara's heartbeat until the phone dimmed to black. That night, Clara dreamed of standing at a lakeshore. The water was perfectly still, reflecting the sky like a sheet of glass. In the reflection, she saw Lena, not as she remembered, but calm, peaceful, whole. "It's better here," Lena said. "No one can take anything from you." Clara's feet sank slightly into the soft mud. She tried to reach out, but the reflection didn't mimic her this time. It waved goodbye instead. When she woke, her hands were wet, the scent of lake water clinging to her skin. When Clara returned to the apartment, the mirrors were gone. Every one of them, missing, as if erased from existence. The walls where they hung were spotless, no dust outlines, no nails. But the air shimmered faintly, like heat rising from pavement. On the table, Lena's wallet lay open, her ID card missing. Clara flipped through it with shaking hands. A new photo was tucked inside. Her own face, expressionless. At the bottom of the ID, the name read, Lena Moreau. Das all. The night fell heavy. Clara stared at her reflection in the window, waiting for it to move. Slowly, it smiled first. "You understand now," the reflection whispered without sound. "Someone always has to stay." Clara's breath fogged the glass. She reached up and touched her own face, whispering her sister's name. The reflection did not fade this time. It leaned closer, lips nearly touching the surface. The glass pulsed like a heartbeat. When it stilled, the reflection remained. But the real Clara was gone. The next morning, the apartment stood silent. Sunlight spilled over the empty couch, dust shimmering like faint smoke. On the table, 2 coffee mugs sat side by side, one half full, still warm. The phone buzzed once, lighting up the quiet with a soft glow. A notification appeared. New device logged in. Hollow Creek Motel Room 7. The message was from Lena's number. The air trembled faintly, as though the walls themselves remembered. And for just a moment, if the light hit right, 2 shadows crossed the floor where only one person should have stood. Outside, the streets felt wrong. Too quiet, too bright. Clara walked slowly, unsure of where she was going, her hand brushing the cool metal of Lena's old wallet in her pocket. She passed a storefront and froze. Her reflection stared back, smiling gently. But the body in the glass wore a different coat. It waved, then turned and walked away in the reflection's world. Clara's heart pounded as she realized she could see the Hollow Creek Motel sign glowing faintly behind the mirrored glass. The reflection was somewhere else, somewhere waiting. She followed the reflection's path instinctively, winding through side streets until the landscape began to shift. The buildings faded, the sound of traffic vanished, replaced by wind and distant thunder. Ahead stood the motel, silent, decaying, its windows dark. The door to room 7 hung open. Inside, the walls pulsed faintly, as if breathing. On the bed lay her sister's phone, its cracked screen looping a single phrase in white text. "You came back wrong." Clara's breath fogged in the cold air. "Then fix me," she whispered. The light grew brighter, humming low like a living heartbeat. The mirror above the bed began to ripple again, surface bending inward. Clara stepped closer, feeling warmth on her face. In the reflection stood Lena, serene, her hair dry, her smile soft. "It's not about who's real," Lena said. "It's about who stays." Clara's hand trembled as she reached out, fingers brushing the surface. The glass quivered, liquid silver wrapping around her fingertips. She whispered, "Then stay with me," and stepped forward. When the mirror stilled, there was no sound. The motel room was empty. No phone, no movement, no sign of anyone. But on the bed, 2 shadows lingered side by side, faint outlines burned into the sheet. Outside, the rain began again, washing across the cracked windows in slow, rhythmic trails. In the reflection of a puddle just beyond the door, 2 faces looked up, Lena and Clara, smiling faintly as if nothing had ever been wrong. The water rippled once, then stilled, and the world above it moved on.